So I am here for another preview, as ever, on the Stacey West Podcast. I'm here with Hugh from the PO4 Podcast. How you doing, mate? Are you well?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks. Can't complain at the moment as a Pompey fan. It's good to be talking with you guys as always.
Absolutely, yeah. It's we tend to have those instances where we either head off to the top of the table at some point during the season. It seems like it's coming early doors. You guys off to an absolute flyer so far. Is there anything that you think that could have improved on the start, or are you generally just like pretty satisfied with it all?
I think we are still struggling to break down teams who play in quite a low block. It's something we struggle against. Some of the teams who come and park the bus against us, and we'll come on to styles of play a bit later on because I had a little look at your stats, and that's something I think could be a problem in the game. But as far as the general overlook looks like, not winning against Cheltenham and things like that at home is something that when we're playing quite fluid teams who like to come at us, I think we do well. We like to control the ball and play it round, and generally things are on the up. And we said we had a really, really hard September. We've got into that. We've come out of Peterborough, Derby, and then obviously we just played against Barnsley yesterday and got a win there as well, so 7 points. So I think from my perspective and from Pompey fans' perspective generally, I think we're sort of past we can actually play this against some of the better teams after quite an easy start, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean that's always interesting, isn't it? We've set, I know Gaz has said quite a few times on the podcast about, like the benchmarks, the yardsticks at which you start to measure yourself against the other teams throughout the season. And I think we've had Blackpool, for example, that seemed to be a bit of a benchmark. Where it's all right, okay, we're at home now, and we can perform against them. But yeah, I mean overall, like I said, you're not going to find too many people complaining, I imagine, when you're sat top of the table. So we did have a very brief chat off air to say, let's talk about some of the incomings that you've had. Obviously, there's a couple that would prick up the ears of some Lincoln fans, but who has mainly impressed and who's settling well in the team so far? And, is there anybody that maybe hasn't quite got going yet?
Let's start with the elephant in the room then, because Regan Paul is absolute dynamite for us this season at the back. We've been absolutely lacking a passing centre-back since we had sort of like Matt Clark playing for us and, Adam Webster and people like that. And he's been absolutely exceptional for us at the back. We probably, before the game against Barnsley, had the best defence in the league. We still haven't conceded a goal from open play. Obviously, we conceded 2 against Barnsley, so I haven't looked at the revised numbers from them. But he's very composed on the ball. He can just bring the ball out of the back. He looks great for us there, and he's got a goal for us as well. And all round, him and Connor Shaughnessy, we just looked very assured at the back line. So he's been an excellent pickup. Moving on, I suppose we've got Alex Robertson. He's a sort of a cam / sort of like centre midfielder. He can play either 8 or 10. We've got him on loan from Man City. He's an Australian international. He's capped for the men's team 20. He's very good. When you watch him play, and I assume he'll play, he did play in the 10 position. We've had quite a lot of squad rotation in midfield, but he's an excellent passer. He can take a free kick, but his close control, his vision has been absolutely exceptional as well. I'm just trying to think. We've had about 14 new players in. Will Norris, the goalkeeper, he played for Peterborough last season. His distribution has been absolutely unreal. It was something that I was quite concerned about when we signed him, but sometimes you've got to hold your hands up, haven't you, and say that you're completely wrong. And in this situation, just completely wrong, because he plays high up the pitch. We like to build from the back, get the ball out and get it rolling. And from that perspective, Will Norris has been exceptional for us this season.
Excellent.
I can keep going, really, I suppose, because we've got some good wingers. Abu Kamara's come in on loan from Norwich. He's also been pretty lively as well. Obviously, we've got Anthony Scully. He's been injured for a bit, so he's played a bit part of the season. I'd say he's probably the player who hasn't kicked off and got running the most out of our new signings, to be fair. Okay. He's just a little bit lost on the left there. We play sort of a 4-2-3-1 at this moment in time. We've also played like a 4-3-3, and he struggled a little bit there. I mean, we can talk about whether it's because we haven't got a left back overlapping him, but he has struggled a bit to get going. And But overall, we've got quite a lot of squad depth. There's more
Cool.
players there, and I can bring them in, I suppose, if it comes on the topic.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying to Charlie off air as well. Looking through the squad, it's quite a quite a hefty squad for League One, and I think there was a few people before the season kicked off, myself included, that said, I think you'd be there or thereabouts, to coin a phrase, when you get to that point in the season where you're getting down to the business end. So, but yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a few names in the squad, and potentially in the starting 11 that will be familiar to Imps fans. You've obviously mentioned Regan Poole, you've mentioned Anthony Scully, of course Sean Raggett's still with you guys, and Joe Morrell as well, who, I mean, I don't think you'd ever be able to find a Lincoln fan with a bad word against any of those four players. So it's, in some respects, it's quite nice to see them doing well, but on Saturday for 90 minutes, we'll part those feelings, I think. But yeah, I mean, how has particularly, I'm a big Joe Morrell fan. How has he developed with you guys over the past couple of seasons?
I'm a massive Joe Morrell fan. It's one of those things that he's a tenacious player. He wins the ball back well for us. He moves well with the ball, moves into space well, and he's a clever passer of the ball as well. That's quite underrated in his game. He really helps us with that sort of industrious sort of midfield running as well. And this season, he's looked really good alongside Marlon Pack in the two. I think he does occasionally get sent off. He's already been sent off this season. I think he was sent off 3 times last season. It was a bit of a silly yellow this time, 2 yellows. I think sometimes with Joe, I think he said himself that when you're my size, which is about 5'7", you've got to be that tenacious or you wouldn't necessarily have a place. But sometimes he just needs to sort of rein that in a little bit. But that's nitpicking. You will hear a few Portsmouth fans going about that sort of thing with Joe Morrell. But overall, he's been an exceptional midfielder, and we've got quite a lot of players in that centre midfield, and he really just came back straight in from suspension and grabbed his place again. And when you're playing centre midfield for Wales, and you're playing against Kevin De Bruyne and people like that, and then you step in and you're playing at Fratton Park, and you can just see that he's got that class really to be a championship midfielder.
Yeah, absolutely. Always good to hear on that one. But let's talk about how you guys set up, how you tend to approach games. Obviously, quite seemingly free flowing and attacking. Obviously, Colby Bishop's got 5 and 8 so far in the league. How do you tend to set up against teams? I know you've mentioned there about potentially struggling against teams that sit back a little bit and let you have the ball, which might well be music to a lot of people's ears, given some of our issues that we're having at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, how we like to play is we're going to get to the centre backs. Both Shaughnessy and Regan Poole can pass the ball pretty well from the back, I suppose. And you got our right backs who try and get the right and left backs forward to get up the pitch and then support the wingers. I suppose those the sort of like the wingers or in the 3 try and get a bit narrow as well and come in and support Colby Bishop, so he's not isolated up front. So you'll see them making runs inside as well as on the outside, and then the left and right backers sort of will get forward then and provide some extra width on the overlap. We try to build sort of through the thirds, but then we will play quick when we see the passes on, if that makes sense. So we're not just going to pass sideways. But at the same time, I think we're 5th in the league with 10 plus passing sequences, and we do like to retain the ball in the opposition's half and sort of wait for our moment. So if it's a case something's not on, it will go back again and we'll recycle the ball round. Obviously, we like to try and get quite a few balls into Bishop, so we do cross the ball quite a lot. But if that's not on, we will try and play it into that number 10 position and then try and attack you from the attacking midfielders there. Out of possession, we'll try and press. I think we're sort of roughly top 6 sort of pressing team. I think we're intensity of press. Whilst I saw you guys are much more on the opposite. You sort of tend to sit in. I think it was 3rd from bottom on PPDA, passive defensive action, and so our style is lose the ball, press, win it back quickly, and then go again really and try and pass it round. So I think the magic formula at home of can we find those spaces, I suppose, and have that little bit of extra quality when a team does sit in really deep. And I think it's going to be quite an interesting game in that sense here, because we are potentially liable to get hit on the counter because you will commit men forward. Our centre backs will step up. our right back in particular, Joe Rafferty, will get forward and try and provide balls into the box. So that will leave space in behind for your players. And, your front three have all been scoring goals. They've all got at least 2 goals, haven't they? Hamilton's got 2 goals as well. So I think it'll be a bit of a chess game coming up here on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's going to be sort of decided with a lot of the tactical stuff, which co-host Chris is going to absolutely love picking apart because that's his bread and butter. But yeah, I mean, obviously you've mentioned the front three. We've obviously got a bit of an issue at the moment with our 2 main strikers being out with longer term injuries, which is a little bit disappointing. But can we just say, on behalf of all Lincoln fans, thank you for Rico Hackett. I know he probably seemed to be a bit of a forgotten man down at Fratton Park, but he's definitely got something. I mean, how did you see him with you guys? Was he one of those players where you could see the potential and it just wasn't coming out for whatever reason, or was it just kind of he doesn't fit here and he doesn't fit into the system that we play?
He definitely didn't fit into Danny Cowley's system when he played, and I think the problem is I don't think he's an out-and-out winger in the midfield. Personally, I've always liked him through the middle, which is something I've been going on for years about. And when he came up from Bromley, he played down the middle. He played as like almost like a false 9 striker as well. Came to us and he sort of ended up playing out wide and a little bit too deep. And he's a bit one-footed, so in that situation, he doesn't tend to have. He gets read basically by fullbacks quite easily. He's much better when he's playing tighter to the front, or I actually prefer him in behind the striker, but he's obviously working well where you guys are playing him, so I'm not going to try and question that. But he's got a good shot at him. He's a good natural finisher. He just didn't have that sort of ability to hold down a place in the squad. I mean, our squad was maybe a bit more bloated in that sense. He's a bit one-footed. His close control's good. So if you can get him into spaces where he's in the box and he's got that opportunity then to shoot, it's great. But he wasn't getting into those spaces enough for us. And when he's not doing that, he's not really that effective in other areas of the game, is he? So he can hit a free kick as well. I don't know if he's done that for you yet, but
he hasn't yet. No, we've got a few people. We've got a few players on the books for free kicks at the minute. I mean, I think Ethan Hamilton, I think, had a good free kick on Saturday that just went. I think just went wide. We've got Danny Mandroya as well. So yeah, I mean, we had a chance to see what he can do from a dead ball situation yet, but. I think overall, like, he seems to have slotted in quite well with us. But I'm sure we'll probably talk about that a bit more when I come to speak to you guys shortly. So that's probably roughly where we're going to wrap up, I think. Is there anything that you want to add to it before we give a little prediction? I mean, I'm pretty sure we're good for a prediction now. If you want to go for that.
I was going to think of that after this podcast, but guess what? Let's go for it. I'm the host of our show, so I'm always putting people on the spot. So do you want me to give some goal scorers as well? I'm going to go with. All right, let's have it. Yeah, I'm going to go with a 2-1 Pompey win. Goals from Colby Bishop, Paddy Lane, who played right wing, had an exceptional game against Barnsley. Got a goal, which he has been lacking, and it was all that's missing. And then a goal from Rico Hackett, because it's just one of those things against your old club, isn't it? I can see it happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we're going to go down that route, then it's going to be 4-1 Pompey with Regan Poole, Sean Raggett, Joe Morell. Getting on the score sheet.
But Raggett's not going to be playing unless there's anything happening. He's not started, so he'd potentially come off the bench, but I can't see it in this game.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, I'm. Honestly, with the issues that are currently going on in our squad, I think as much as it pains me to predict a loss, I'm gonna slightly divert it and say I would absolutely snap your hand off for a point at the weekend. I think you guys, you seem to be flying at the minute, and hopefully, we can come away with something. I'll say a 1-1 draw for my prediction for this. But until then, we're gonna offer you, a couple of minutes if you want to put yourself out there and tell us where we can find you guys on socials, on YouTube, on wherever it is we can find you.
Yeah, you can find us on all usual podcast platforms. It's our 5th season doing it now. the PO4 Cast, and find us on Twitter, Insta, all that kind of malarkey. But also, we're part of our sports group, which is Pompey News Now, where you can find our website. So if you want to just find us easily, you can look up Pompey News Now on any of those places, or just click on PO4 Cast and click that 5-star rating. Why is a Lincoln fan ever going to do that?
Depends on the result of the weekend, to be fair. But no, thank
Well,
you
I
ever so
said
much.
that, I'm going to get pelters now of 1 star from angry Lincoln fans if we win. Like that guy with the reddish hairs and knobheads, I'm going to give him 1 star.
No worries. Well, thanks ever so much, Hugh. We'll look forward to the game on Saturday, and we'll see you later on in the season.
Nice one. Cheers for having me on.
Cheers.